Howdy. Welcome to Ausgrave Royalty. I am Justin. We made it to the end, y'all. We made it to the end of season 2. Congratulations to all of us. We've covered a ton. Last season with Dr. Anthony Stevens and his book Archetypes, there were some meaty topics in there, but Season 2, in Season 2, we covered 5 books, technically, instead of 1. All on the same subject matter, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, of course. And this solo books, all by Moore and Gillette. So we really went all out. We went all out on King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. We now not only know the archetypal foundations from Dr. Anthony Stevens, but now we know how to utilize them to meet that challenge by Alan Watts halfway about whether there can be any real self-help. Like, how do you help yourself if the self that's supposed to be helping is the same self that needs the help, you know? It's like pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. But looking at your own life through the lens of these archetypes, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, that's one way that can lead to increased awareness of why you do things. And increased awareness can often improve your mental health right away. Of course, the more complex and tightly woven nuances will require further work, could require professional work even, but at least this tool is better than nothing, and maybe can put some low-hanging fruit to rest. And who knows what chain reaction that would start when now you've resolved a bunch of things. Now you can maybe move on now that you have more brain space and you can tackle the bigger things, right? Perhaps. In this video, I just want to take a breather, go over a quick summary of what we talked about, and we'll be talking about the next season as well. So at the beginning of the series, we covered why Moore and Gillette spoke of this subject with all that energy and urgency. And it should be clear now why that's the case. The policies of our society seem edging ever closer to a collective shadow possession. And let me know in the comments what y'all think about this. I would say, at least specifically, that relations between the genders have never been more distorted, cynical, and misunderstood. And Dr. Stevens, who we covered in the last series, and Moore and Gillette all echo this statement. And that was like 40 years ago, right? I don't think things have gotten better, in my opinion. So Moore and Gillette talked about what they called patriarchy and how it roots in boy psychology. I mean, and the shadow possessions of such. And the word patriarchy is unfortunate. It's unfortunate to use that word. I don't like using it in 2022 because it's so charged on both sides of the aisle. But they have a specific definition for it, so please go check that out in the previous videos at the beginning of the series. So they also talked about boy psychology, which are the precursors to the mature masculine archetypes, those being King, Warrior, Magician, and Lover. And tragically, many get stuck in this developmental stage. The authors cite this as a contributing factor to what we just talked about in terms of distortions in society. After that, we went into detail about the 4 mature masculine archetypes: King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And we talked about how they manifest in our lives and in their fullness, like in their ideal state, as well as how they manifest when they're possessed by their positive and negative inflations, the shadow possessions. For the king, the primary masculine archetype, he's the creator and the orderer. He creates laws, orders his surroundings, procreates the next generation, and keeps the chaos at bay. When possessed, he can either become a tyrant that's paranoid and cruel, or a weakling who's impotent and passive. The next is the warrior, the archetype of action, the doer. The warrior is about the mission. He serves the king, his transcendent other, and he enforces boundaries. He's the one who grants the energy to finish that to-do list and keeps faith and loyalty. When possessed, he can either become a sadist or a masochist. Then we have the magician, the archetype of potential. While the king concerns himself with his imminent domain, the magician's jurisdiction lies in what's potentially possible. The magician continues the vital traditions of the tribe by ritual initiation. He develops and maintains technology, and he creates solutions. When possessed, he can become an innocent, playing dumb for manipulative purposes, or a trickster, consciously indulging in creating chaos around him. Finally, we have the lover, the archetype of zest for life. The lover is an outlaw, while the other archetypes seek to shape the world around them. The lover just wants to expand into the world. The lover makes the world bright, makes things worth doing, and fills us with excitement at all the new possibilities we might experience. And when possessed, the lover can either become an addict, the Don Juan, the James Bond, the puer aeternus, in other words, who's ready for the next adventure as soon as the previous adventure's excitement wore off, never satisfied. Or the impotent, the man whose world is gray, lifeless, and dull. When an archetype is present in its fullness, if an archetype is not present in its fullness, it is being possessed in some way. There is no middle ground. And our mission as individuals is to maintain a proper distance, not too close and not too distant. We need to find that middle ground. We need to become aware of the way that the possession is affecting our lives, if at all, and take appropriate action. And this is a method of self-help. This is something we can all do without paying for expensive talk therapy. We can look at our lives through this paradigm and hopefully, be productive psychologically. And there's never any judgment. We're all possessed in some way. The value here is just increase awareness. Let's just start by confirming what the problems are so that we can then take appropriate action to solve them, right? That's what individuation is. And after discussing the major masculine archetypes, we discussed many of the fundamental dynamics. It's one of my favorite videos of the season. That are involved in the psyche when it comes to archetypes. Highly recommend that one. We also spoke again of how the archetypes are related to our bodies and our brain structure. And I say again because we covered a lot of that information in the first season. That was one of Dr. Anthony Stevens's impetus of getting into this literature, to root psychology and by proxy the Jungian stuff in biology and genetics. So check out my previous videos on those if you haven't already for more on that. And finally, we got personal. And I took my own psychological evaluation with the paradigm we've been evaluating. I looked at myself via the king, the warrior, magician, and the lover, and gave my feedback. perhaps self-help actually being captured on camera. So just I wanted to bring some concluding thoughts. In my introduction, I noted some reasons for choosing this particular book. That first of all, it was well written, and for a general audience, despite the heady subjects involved. It was also that Moore and Gillette possessed a certain charisma that appealed to me as authors. And for more on that, I would highly recommend Moore's audio lectures, which you can find at the Union Institute's website. He's very good. Robert Moore's a very good speaker, to say the least. And I also chose this material because Moore and Gillette are they're very transparent about giving the reader further reading. And that's so important, especially for this subject. Archetypal psychology is a interdisciplinary subject. It's psychology, biology, and anthropology, largely. And if you're fascinated by this stuff, there's definitely further reading for you in whatever niche that we've covered. So definitely check out the books. I have them linked below. And check out the audio lectures. He name drops like crazy. And that's actually how I found out about Dr. Anthony Stevens, his book Archetypes. Robert Moore, in one of his audio lectures, cited the book. And I mean, in the written books, he cites him there as well, but it just rings more potently when I was hearing it for some reason. So yeah, I myself have plenty of reading to do on the subject, and I've said this so many times before, but I'm just I hope y'all got something out of this season, and that I'm not an authority on any of this. I would classify myself as an enthusiastic fan of this stuff. Yeah. Also, and finally, the main reason I chose this material was because when I read it, I actually saw in the material, a way of doing one's own self-help. Again, like, this is coming from my own necessity of not wanting to pay for expensive talk therapy. If y'all have read the book, or one day y'all read the book, let me know in the comments below what y'all just think about the book, as in how it's written and all that. I'm just curious. Yeah, this is the book that inspired the channel. For those who don't know, my mom got me this book on a whim for Christmas. Thought it'd be something I would like. Little did she know it would lead to a YouTube channel. But yeah, just funny how all that works. And yeah, the only reason I made, like, King Warrior Magician Lover was the first book I ever read on archetypal psychology. That was the book. But I made this season 2 because I wanted to lay the theoretical foundation that Dr. Anthony Stevens has in his book Archetypes. This was indirectly implied by Moore's recommendation himself. So it was very, I took a lot of pleasure. It was a labor of love doing this series on these books, on this subject. Yeah, this subject is highly interdisciplinary, like I already mentioned, but really, like, the more I learn, the more I want to learn about this stuff. I'm an addict. I'm like a pig in mud. I want more. sitting over there on the table, I have James Hillman. I found James Hillman's writing on alchemy, and previously I'd only had his audio lectures on Audible, which are great, but the recording is very poor quality. I have to turn the volume up like to max to barely hear it. But I'm glad I got it. His writing, his collection of writing on alchemy, sitting there, and that's definitely going to be a future video series. And that's a good segue for talking about the next series, the next season on this channel. And it's going to be on Jean Boleyn's Gods of Every Man and her other book, Goddesses of Every Woman. And this is a different approach from Moore and Gillette, but she's on the same imperative. She's drawing archetypes, this time from Greek mythology, and looking at the Greek gods and goddesses from an anthropological and mythological lens, as well as a psychological lens. So basically, what is the Zeus archetype? What is the Hera archetype? What is the Persephone archetype? And she goes through all of those. And it's a very appropriate season 3 because it's both an alternative to the Moore and Gillette reading, but it's also it has a sort of meta benefit in that we kind of get in the habit of looking at our myths and symbols that surround us and getting an idea for how they are archetypally charged. And we did not emphasize the anthropological side in this in this season or the last. However, we will be talking a little bit about it in season 3 because she draws heavily on the mythology, on the Greek mythology, to arrive at her psychological conclusions. And with that as well, I'll be... how I'm going to structure it is... Yeah, there's a lot to say, actually. So first thing, I hope y'all have enjoyed not only the book videos in season 2, but also like the personal videos. Like on my fiction and nonfiction reading habits and all that. I hope y'all like those videos. Anyway, I'm going to reduce those in season 3. I think there's a couple that I include. It's going to be 20 videos, I believe, so 1 week shorter, tentatively. So I'm thinking, yeah, 20 videos, I believe. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to recall. In any case, what is evident is that I'll be going through... So right now, every Wednesday, there's kind of one of those fun, ranty videos. And then every Saturday, there's like a serious book-related video. And depending on what we're covering. In season 3, I'm heavily reducing the fun kind of videos. And it's all going to be book. So it'll be like... instead of like... Yeah, basically every week there'll be 2 book-related videos because there's so many gods and goddesses to cover. It would bloat the series basically if I included more fun ones. So in order to keep it more within the scope of a season, I'm gonna just go god by god by goddess, go through them, and then within those videos, I will not only explain where Boleyn is coming from, citing material from the appropriate book, but also share my personal take on it and kind of my reaction. So we'll still be getting to know each other bit by bit, as we talk about how I'm relating to the gods and goddesses. And again, we both have, we all have all the archetypes within us, and the masculine archetypes are accessed from women via the animus, and the feminine archetypes through the anima and men. And so I can relate in some way to the goddesses, and women will be able to relate to the gods and the qualities that they embody based on their mythology. And the Greco-Roman traditions and customs that were alive in those days that relate to those particular gods and goddesses. So yeah, that's what season 3 is going to be. I do have season 4 and 5 in the works. I'm talking about in terms of structure. I still need to, hell, I'm still finishing season 2 right now myself with y'all. I'm recording this October 19th, 2022. What I do is I record the season in advance and then release them. I think this one is set to be released. You know what it is, but I have to look at my schedule on January 7th, 2023. So, yeah, several months away, or a few months away, but still time is distorted. Yeah, it's October 19th right now, but I just like doing that, recording them in bulk and then setting them to automatically release on YouTube. You can schedule the release of videos. So little behind the scenes there that I'm sure y'all were dying to hear about. But gotta keep the chain going, As of this moment, I think there's only 2 videos left to be released on season 1. So it's kind of an exciting time for me, finishing up the public release of season 1 finally. And here I am ending season 2 relatively privately. I really hope y'all enjoyed season 1, by the way. What else? I was going to say something. Oh yeah. In case y'all are curious, for season 4, I mean, there's a lot of options I could go with for season 4 and 5. There's no shortage of material. Even material that I already have sitting on my shelf right now. And not to mention, if you have been a fan of this channel for a while, you know that this isn't just a channel on archetypal psychology. This is a channel about great ideas that I want to find and send up the flare and say, hey guys, check this great idea out. These can be about economics, about philosophy, whatever. It just so happens that right now I'm into archetypal psychology, but that's not the extent of this channel. So who knows, maybe season 23 or something, who knows what it'll be on. My point is, so season 4, I'm thinking of doing the book Archetype of Initiation by Robert L. Moore. Name may ring a bell because he's the author of the books we covered this season, the same one. Not with Gillette this time, just Robert Moore on his own. And he has some great writing on the initiatory process. And if you, again, have been a fan of this channel, you know that's my favorite subject within the subject of archetypal psychology. I really want to know more about the archetype of initiation. So I think I might do that next. But it's a short book, so it might be like a mini season. After that, it's going to be tough. But I'm really leaning towards, as of October 19th, 2022, I'm really leaning towards covering the work of Robert Johnson. He has the books He, She, We, and there's a few others. They're very short but brilliant reads. So I'll probably include a lot of his work in one season and just make it a Robert Johnson season. He's an incredible thinker and writer as well within this vein of archetypal psychology. brilliant, brilliant works. So I really want to cover those. But I also, competing with that, like I mentioned earlier, I have the alchemical collection, the written alchemical, sorry, the written collection on alchemy by James Hillman, sitting right over there, and along with Alchemy by Mary Louise von Franz. So I may read those books and make them a series. I might even bring in some primary text in terms of Carl Jung himself. I may try and tackle some of that. Although I only stay away from Jung himself simply because he's kind of been done to death by other YouTubers out there. And I want to kind of bring some fresh voices to the literature. But alchemy is so niche that maybe, and Jung spoke on so much that maybe there's room for Ausgrave royalty to make some headway in that realm. So I'll be thinking about that. Either way, if it's not, whether it's season 4 or 5 or whatever, I will definitely be doing a series on that at some point. It's just a matter of when, basically. Just broadly speaking, I also have a deep, deep urge to cover Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, just as a random change of pace to bring in to cover some new ground. And it's a big, giant book, but it's really well written. But I've always wanted, I want to read the book. I haven't finished it. I've read about 3/4 of it, and this was a couple of years ago. And I want to finish it, and I love his economic thoughts, and obviously he's probably the GOAT of economics, economic theory, economic policy. So I want to do a series on him, or on that book rather. He's written a bunch of other great books, and I can't tackle everything. Well, not, given enough time and enough Diet Coke, I can tackle the world. But, one thing at a time, right? So I'm thinking about that as well. Of course, there's also Iron John by Robert Bly, which he ran men's conferences. He knew Robert Moore. He attended Robert Moore's lectures. They were close. So there's an argument to be made that he should be covered as well. I mean, I'm being pulled at by all kinds of desires to cover everything, A friend of mine also wanted me to cover the Nicomachean Ethics. Haven't forgot about you, Matt. In a video series like this from Aristotle, So again, I've only read pieces of that, and I might combine it with a lot of his other works to do kind of an Aristotle series. And I have a background in philosophy, so it'd be kind of cool to return to those roots. And Soren Kierkegaard's one of my favorite philosophers, so I'd like to do a series with his work as well. So trust me, I have plenty of things that are on my mind, for better and for worse. Worse because it's distracting and I want to do them all now, right? I'm just one average dude of average intelligence. I've got a 9 to 5. I wish I could do it all, But it's been such a pleasure sharing all this information with y'all. I mentioned in the video on the magician that I closely identify with the shaman archetype, and I just really want this to be a legacy of mine to get this material out there for y'all. And I thank you for your comments and your participation, and y'all, I'll see y'all in season 3. Happy holidays, by the way. All right. See ya. Bye-bye.